A sophisticated attack, one that had been talked about for years. Israel employing both intelligence operatives on the ground and at the same time using fighter jets, taking out nuclear facilities and killing senior members of the Republican Guard. Prime Minister Netanyahu describing the overnight attack as a preventive measure. It came as a time when the U.S. was scheduled for more nuclear talks with Tehran. All right, we'll try to hear from the Israeli Prime Minister shortly. In the last hours, there have been more strikes reported on the Natanz nuclear facility in the north of the country. At the same time, first reactions coming in from Washington. Overnight, the United States said it had not taken part in the operation. Now, the U.S. president, though, taking to Truth Social and stating that Iran must make a deal before there is nothing left and save what was once known as the Iranian Empire. No more death, no more destruction, just do it before it is too late. Donald Trump, who then spoke to ABC News' Jonathan Karl, telling him that the operation was, quote, excellent. We gave them a chance and they didn't take it. They got hit hard, very hard, and there's more to come. A lot more. Our coverage begins in Jerusalem with correspondent Noga Tarnapovsky. Noga, we've heard that the air raid warnings have been, the security warnings for civilians where you are, had been eased in the last couple of hours.
That's right. Israelis were awakened this morning at around 3 by what sounded like air raid sirens all over the country. And it turns out it wasn't that, but it was the military using that same alert system to alert Israelis, in fact, to the fact that the nation's security situation had changed. What one of the military spokesmen said is that it was a way of trying to give people some time before morning came to plan for not sending the kids to school, not going to work, changing everybody's plans. But since then, it has been a very strange quiet. At one point, we were informed that 100 drones had been launched towards Israel. They seem to have been intercepted. They were supposed to have arrived here by a few hours ago. There were rumors that ballistic missiles had been sent. We haven't heard since. Now, consistently, every hour on the hour, the IDF is still telling Israelis, prepare for missiles. The Iranians will definitely respond. And Israelis are responding by buying huge amounts of water, stocking up on canned foods, hunkering down in or near their bomb shelters. There is a response, but for now, we have just been in a kind of a strange waiting pattern.
A strange waiting pattern, and again, those words about from Donald Trump that there is more to come. Compare for us, if you will, Noga, the mood today compared to last October, the first time ever that there had been a direct confrontation between Israel and Iran.
So the first time ever, and a moment of great fear, was actually April of 2024. And at that time, Israel basically shut down, and there was just an enormous amount of fear of the damage that these Iranian missiles could do. At that time, that was the first time we saw this sort of improvised international alliance of nations providing Israel with a kind of second layer of an anti-missile defense system, diplomatically and in the air. Planes from Saudi Arabia, even from the UK, Americans, French. It happened again in October. And now it hasn't happened yet, in the sense that the missiles appear not yet to have been launched. They're not yet coming. I think that Israelis are more nonchalant than they were the first time over when it felt really terrifying and was brand new. But of course, there's a very acute awareness here that the magnitude of this Israeli attack on Iran has never before been seen. So there is an expectation that the retaliation, when it does come, will be very significant.
Yeah, it's the retaliation expected. Earlier, we heard from Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Let's take a listen.
Moments ago, Israel launched Operation Rising Lion, a targeted military operation to roll back the Iranian threat to Israel's very survival. This operation will continue for as many days as it takes to remove this threat. For decades, the tyrants of Tehran have brazenly, openly called for Israel's destruction. They've backed up their genocidal rhetoric with a program to develop nuclear weapons. In recent years, Iran has produced enough highly enriched uranium for 9 atom bombs. 9. In recent months, Iran has taken steps that it has never taken before, steps to weaponize this enriched uranium. And if not stopped, Iran could produce a nuclear weapon in a very short time. It could be a year, it could be within a few months, less than a year. This is a clear and present danger to Israel's very survival.
And joining us from Tel Aviv, columnist and retired diplomat Alon Pinkas. Thank you for speaking with us here on France 24.
Thank you, Francois. Always good to be with you.
Is Israel at war with Iran? We just heard the Israeli Prime Minister say it'll take as many days as necessary.
Yeah, he said that 20 months ago about the war in Gaza. So take him at his word that this may take some time, not because he knows, but because he doesn't know. And the duration or the length of this conflict at this point depends on the scale and scope of Iran's inevitable retaliatory strike. I mean, it's going to come. Whether or not it's going to be destructive and devastating, I hope not. Or whether or not it's going to be less than that, I don't know. But whether or not this takes a few days or a few weeks is, at this point, is up to Iran.
Up to Iran, and there is one of the main nuclear sites which reportedly has yet to be hit.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's going to take a few days, probably a few good weeks before we could do an intelligent damage assessment of Iran's nuclear facilities. We do know, we is you and I, not we Israel. I don't know what Israel knows. We do know that the Iranians have dug deep in the mountains into uranium enrichment sites that make them almost impregnable to bombs, at least to the type of munitions that Israel has. Now, what exactly was hit and the extent of the damage will take time to assess. Rafael Grossi, the head of the International Atomic Energy Agency, the IAEA, said that there are no radioactive signs being emitted from those sites, which means that they were not destroyed. On the other hand, Israel tends to, there's a tendency in Israel to listen to all these anonymous military sources that say that the reactor in Natanz, which is the largest enrichment installation or facility, has been destroyed. I doubt that, but again, I don't know. But let's just put one thing in context, because I heard Mr. Netanyahu in that passage or that footage that you just showed. Iran has been accelerating its enrichment process because Mr. Netanyahu encouraged Trump to withdraw unilaterally from the in 2018. He encouraged him to withdraw unilaterally from the 2015 nuclear deal. Had he not done so, we wouldn't be in this situation. Now, he may be right that this needed to be done. I'm not getting into that. That's a different question and a different conversation altogether. But the fact that Iran has been progressing, has been advancing, has been enriching more uranium, is capable of building, Mr. Netanyahu said 9 bombs, I don't know, maybe 4, maybe 6, that doesn't matter, is because the U.S. withdrew with Israel's encouragement from the nuclear deal, not for any other reason.
So you mentioned several of the key points there. That report by the International Atomic Energy Agency that came out this week, the fact that we were supposed to have this coming Sunday, nuclear talks, direct talks between the United States and Iran in Muscat. When Prime Minister Netanyahu talks about this being a preemptive operation, is he justified in carrying it out?
In his mind, yes, but that also reflects a messianic state of mind that he is when it comes to Iran. He thinks of Iran as Hitler and himself as a Winston Churchill. He thinks of Iran as a existential threat not only to Israel but to Western civilization, and he thinks of himself and bragged for years about being the protector of Israel, an image that was shattered on October 7, 2023. Now, there are two ways of looking at it. One is that he needed to do this in order to correct his place in history that was almost indelibly tarnished on October 7, 2023. And the second is that it is indeed preemptive, that Iran and the U.S. were on the verge or on the brink of signing an agreement that in his mind was bad. That raises another question that I don't know if we have the time or if you intended to ask, Francois, and that is, did the U.S. know and when did it know about all this? And is it complicit or not? Because there are two competing narratives.
I want to get to that point, Alon Pinkas, but let me first. I'll pick up on the point you've just made because it's a really important one. With Noga Tarnapovsky, our correspondent there, this idea that this somehow personally redresses the deep misgivings of the Israeli public when it came to the failings of October 7th. Right now, Noga Tarnapovsky, we see that in Israel, the initial reactions that I've been seeing from the outside haven't been so much of whether or not this is a good thing. It's more just been, well, have I got enough, like you said, enough water and food stocked up at home? Too early to say how Israeli public feels, whether this attack was justified?
I think it is too early to say. But I think this is one of those very rare cases in which security needs, whatever their original sources, but genuine security needs and genuine political protection needs have kind of joined together in a junction. I spoke just 2 days ago in the Knesset with a veteran Israeli legislator, Ahmad Tibi, and he told me at that time, obviously before we knew this would happen, that in his view, Netanyahu was certain that the one thing that could win him this election, a next election, despite his very deep unpopularity, is an attack. He said that he didn't think Netanyahu would undertake it without an okay from the U.S., but he was very sure about that. And today we're reading Ben Caspit, a journalist and the biographer of Benjamin Netanyahu, saying that behind closed doors today, Netanyahu is in a sort of euphoria, that he sees an end to all the wars, all Arab nations joining the Abraham Accords, something connected to Alon's version of this almost messianic view of himself versus Iran. Of course, this operation today is not ending today, and we don't know exactly how it's still going to advance. But for now, it does appear that genuine security needs have come together with very important political needs of the Prime Minister.
Important political needs. Alon Pinkas, when we woke up here in Europe after these attacks, we were reading the comments from the State Department saying, we're not a part of this. And now we're seeing tweets from Donald Trump saying it's a great thing that these attacks have happened.
to conceal the fact that he was effectively humiliated by Mr. Netanyahu's defiance. I mean, a day ago, 24 hours ago, here was the President of the United States saying in his own voice, I urge Israel not to attack while negotiations are being held. And as you pointed out to earlier, Francois, and the next round of negotiations is scheduled for this Sunday, 2 days from now. And then all of a sudden, Israel attacks. And quickly, the Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, disassociates and distances himself from it and says, whoa, 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 we're not complicit in this. This is not us. This is a unilateral Israeli action. Then the U.S. says, well, we were notified. We were apprised, but we were not consulted. And now you just showed Mr. Trump's post in his social network. I'm sorry, in his social network, calling this excellent. Now, there is a possibility that in Trump's mind, this would actually, I think he's going to be proven wrong, but give him the benefit of the doubt. He thinks that this approach by him, that this had to be done in order to push the Iranians to be more forthcoming and conciliatory in their negotiations, is actually a good thing, that now Iran will come back to the negotiating table. He either doesn't understand how the Iranians think or is just expressing some unfounded wishful thinking, because I just don't see that happening. Maybe in the next 2 months, but certainly not in the next few days.
And Alon Pinkas, on that euphoria that Noga Tarnapovsky was describing on the part of the Israeli Prime Minister, if it was 2018, at a time when relations between Saudi Arabia and Iran were at a low, for certain there would have been some quiet celebrations in Riyadh. Is that still the case today, though?
No, look, I don't think that the Saudis are losing sleep or being, or feeling bad about what happened. But I do think they have every reason to be anxious, because if this deteriorates, if this escalates, they could be in the crossfire. The Hormuz Straits may be shut. The Iranians, in some scenarios, which seem unlikely now, but who knows how this is going to develop. In some scenario, the Iranians may attack oil refineries and oil terminals in Saudi Arabia. You wouldn't think this is possible. You would think that the Iranians would be rational and would not provoke neither the U.S. nor the Saudis, nor for that matter, the Emiratis and the Qataris. But you don't know if the Iranians perceive this to be a moment in which the regime is being existentially threatened, meaning that Israel may not call it that way, the U.S. may not call it that way, but both are intent on bringing about regime change in Iran, then all bets are off in terms of making rational decisions. So I think the Saudis would be happy that this happened, or sort of, subduedly happy if this happened and ended today, but it won't.
All right, and we are at the same time. There's Exhibit B. It wasn't just nuclear sites that were hit. It's also top commanders of the Iranian Revolutionary Guards. Stay with us, Alon Pinkas, because we're going to have a look at those top commanders and why they matter with Lisa Kamenoff.
Iran's nuclear program and its top tier of military commanders and nuclear scientists, all targeted by Israel in one night of airstrikes. General Hossein Salami is among those killed by the strikes in Tehran, with his death confirmed by Iranian media. Leader of the Revolutionary Guards Corps since 2019, Salami was responsible for securing Iran's borders and safeguarding it against any foreign attacks. His forces control Iran's missile arsenal, and he was one of the pillars of the regime. Known for his fiery rhetoric against the United States and its allies Israel and Saudi Arabia, he played a key role in suppressing the internal protests of 2019 and 2022. Also killed was Mohammed Bagheri, chief of the staff of the armed forces since 2016. He's one of the Islamic Republic's most senior officers and the driving force behind Iran's ballistic missile program. Another military loss has been Ghulam Ali Rashid, deputy chief of staff and the commander of the Khatam al-Anbiya central headquarters, tasked with the military operational decision-making. Salami, Bagheri and Rashid were long-term members of the Revolutionary Guards and fought in the Iran-Iraq War. Iranian media and senior officials have also reported the death of Ali Shamkhani, the senior former Navy commander and one of Iran's most influential politicians, was a confidant of Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. According to several sources, at least 6 nuclear scientists were killed, including Faridun Abbasi and Mohammad Mehdi Tehranchi. The death of these high-profile figures shows the sheer scale of the Israeli operation. The Iranian Revolutionary Guards have vowed to take revenge after the death of their leader.
Alon Pinkas, is Israel trying to bring down the Iranian regime?
I don't know, but look, I got to tell you something. These people, I mean, from a moral point of view, these people deserve their fate. Practically, it's almost insignificant because they're all replaceable. But here's another twist on this. How could Israel assassinate an Iranian from 2,000 kilometers away without causing any collateral damage? Yet when they're looking for Hamas leader 25 kilometers away, you need to raise an entire neighborhood. So something has to give here in terms of how this is all being conducted.
One final question. I'll put it to you, Noga Tarnapovsky, at this moment. Right now, it is a Friday in Israel. Just tell us, the streets are quiet where you are.
The streets are quiet. The loudest they were today was at around 7 a.m. The local supermarket opened so that they could stock up. But the city is not as dead as I expected it to be, given the dimensions of the threat. The Jerusalem Central Market, a traditional place that people go to buy their weekend provisions on a Friday, was not empty. Wasn't as full as usual, but not empty. And neighbors of mine, for example, have been calling restaurants to see if they're closing as per military orders or if they might be remaining open. So there is a sense that somehow, I think among many Israelis, that we might kind of surf this one along, despite the repeated warnings from the army that that will not happen.
Noga Tarnapovsky, many thanks for reporting live there from Jerusalem. I want to thank Alon Pinkas for being with us from Tel Aviv.
You, François.